Our next topic is one that I left you hanging in the last video. You turned to me and said, hey, what about if they don't just say yes that easily? What if they say, I've got a friend in the business? What if they say, I want to sell it myself? What if they want to cut the commission? That's what this tape is about. What happens when things don't go your way? And in most of the situations throughout the Mentor series, we're showing it straight through. But this video covers the points in time where they just say no, or they want to stall you. So what our topics today are, first of all, the three categories of resistance. In this business, we use the term objection as a generic term to describe all resistance, when in fact there are three different types of resistance. Then I'll talk about the 6 steps of responding to any resistance you get, whether it be a buyer or a seller. We'll address a few of the specific listing objections and a few of the specific buyer objections, and then we will cover the big one, the commissionectomy. And for those of you who are dealing with commission-sensitive markets and getting that kind of objection, you will love this tape. So most of the transactions you encounter will not be as easy as Walden Mark at the end. Most of them will have resistance. Most of them have things that they'd like to address before they sign. So you'll need to know these things. But let me give you some good news. The last thing that you will ever have to do with an objection is answer it. Most people think that's the first. So let's take a look at the 3 categories of resistance. The first category is called objection. An objection, there is a specific definition of an objection. An objection is a conflicting need. So conflict implies you have choice. It's either, yes, I'd like to buy the house, but I have an issue with it. Objections are good because it contains a yes. Yes, we'd love to list with you, but our transfer isn't final. Yes, we'd like to hire you, but we're concerned that maybe your company doesn't tap into relocation. So there is some yes in it. Yes, we'd like to buy this house, but it's more money than we really think we'd like to spend on it. So the answer to this is they have positive and they have minus, and right now there should be more positive than there are negatives. Can you make the negative go away?
Yes.
Who said yes?
I did.
Give me an example of a negative you can make go away. Somebody says the freeway is too close to the house. Can you make that go away?
Take an alternate route.
Take an alternate route, but
Oh, the noise reduction.
can you move the freeway or the house?
No.
No. And that's the point. Most objections people raise are like, yeah? What's your point? There's nothing you can do. So the answer is, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer or Mr. and Mrs. Seller, hopefully the positive outweighs the negative. If it does, you should proceed. If it doesn't, find another home or find another real estate agent. Okay? So the next category is doubt. Doubt is totally different from objection. Doubt is when they don't believe you. So people start with a distrust. So when they raise an objection, it could be just disbelief. When they say the house is, boy, these taxes are way too high for us. Really, they're not. They could afford the taxes, but they don't think that that's the right amount. Or they think it's cold in here. Their disbelief is that the heating system might work right. And the third attitude is one I can't stand. That's indifference. Do you like this house? Oh, it's okay. It's nice, but the other ones were nice too, so I don't really know, we don't really have to buy, and I'd hate to buy this one and then, disappoint the others. Do you have trouble making decisions? Well, yes and no. What do you do with indifference? You probe. Another attitude of indifference is when a seller says, you know what, if you're not going to take it at this price, we're just not going to move. And they act indifferent. And I would say, well, the market isn't paying this price at this time, so if what I hear you saying is you're not going to move now, I respect that, I'll see you later. Well, wait just a minute. So with objection, you give more benefit, so the positive outweighs the negative. With doubt, you provide evidence, proof. So if they think that a good time the doubt shows up, or the time when doubt shows up with sellers is on your CMA. You tell them it's worth X, they think it's worth X plus 15. It's not an objection. It's not. They don't believe you. They go, well, we're sure our home is worth more than that. Let's see. The CMA is your evidence. So do good CMAs. Have your evidence. Otherwise, they'll cross-examine you and you lose. So those are the 3 attitudes. Let's talk now about the 6 steps to managing objections. This is a critical series of steps that each of you needs to remember, memorize, practice. Most salespeople rate their competence as a salesperson by their ability to answer an objection. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me in seminars year after year after year. Dave, you got any good answers for this? What should I say when they say this? Well, if a buyer says this, what should I say? Do you have a good answer for this? Right? And many of you come to seminars saying, do you have any good answers for this one? Johnny Carson once described the shortest measurement of time as the time between a New York stoplight turning green and the taxi behind you honking. I would redefine the shortest measurement of time is the time between a prospect raising an objection and a realtor answering it. So how do you folks feel about this home? Well, we really think the bedrooms are kind of small bedrooms, something you could deal with by just putting in a couple of bunk beds and you could put mirrors in the end. How much time you could spend in the bedrooms anyway? Other than that, how do you like it? Well, we really think it's too close to the freeway distance, something you can measure time, not distance. You can always take an alternate route to the freeway distance and make sure you're going to get a good deal on a house anyway and you're going to get used to the sound. Other than that, how do you like it? Well, we really don't like the decorating of something as cosmetic and not permanent to the property. Don't you realize that can be changed to the property, so you should be taking a look at the permanent values. And finally, they're going to say to you, hey, have you considered decaf? So we rush to judgment. We think we have to answer these objections. So I am going to introduce you to a new technique, and that is this. Next time a buyer or a seller raises an objection, what I'd like you to do is very simply pause.
They'll be expecting a response.
Yep, see, about 21 seconds, people go, okay, that's enough. How long did that feel to you? Felt long. People on the videotape are going, no, that was real. See, I wanted to give you 20 seconds of silence because for many of you, you've never experienced that in your sales career. Most salespeople I know could talk a dog off a meat wagon. Deepak Chopra once said, music is defined by the space between the notes. Therefore, this space is as much the music as the note. If you want to create power in presentations, pause. What do you suppose will happen during the pause? They go nuts. In fact, a lot of times it just goes away. So he says, man, these bedrooms are small. And during that pause, what happens? Oh, honey, what difference does it make? These are for the kids anyway. Let's go take a look at the family room. And you're going, yes! You know, by the way, you know who's good at the pause? New agents. Right? Because you don't know what to say. Right? Which is fine. That's how new agents become good quickly. See, experienced agents go, oh, okay, I know this one. Okay, I know this one. Somebody walks in and says, I don't think the well will be deep enough on this. The new agent's going, right? And during that time, one spouse will say to the other, oh, honey, it's getting water. It's obviously deep enough. Let's go. And off they go. Pause, wait, how about the big ones? How about a commission objection? Let's use this on the real objections. You're sitting in front of an owner and they say, you know, we did talk to another company and they said that they were thinking that they would charge us 1% less and we just wondered if you would cut your fee. And during that pause, what do you suppose will happen? The owners are sitting there going, we were just asking. Oh, and thanks for asking. I'm not naive enough to believe that the pause will get rid of every objection. But I'll tell you what, it'll get rid of most of them. Most of them will go away. And even if it doesn't go away, it gives them time to replay in their head, gives you time to think about it. By the way, if you pause too long, they will think you're stupid. So at some point you will need to come in with a response. And the step number 2 in our 6 steps is to acknowledge or restate the objection. Doesn't matter what it is. There's the classic, boy, I really don't like the decorating in this home. Pause. And your acknowledgement just could have been a mm-hmm. Or it could be a repeat. So it's not so that, in other words, our commission rate would be an issue in making a decision tonight. Am I right on that? So in other words, the size of the bedrooms is a concern for the two of you. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. Okay, so you have a question about the R factor of the doorknobs. Is that right? Okay, I'll make a note of that. So you just, set it aside. Set it aside. I hear you. Understand? Okay. Same with presenting an offer. Same, whatever situation you are in. Somebody looks at the person and goes, my gosh, they want to close in 45 days? What? Are they smoking in? There's no way. Okay, so the closing date would be an issue for you. That's all. Pause, acknowledge, and move on.
Their commission rate was 1% less than yours. So this is what you're charging?
This is what our fee is, yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that's part of it.
Traffic is bad. Noisy.
A little noisy for you?
Yeah.
I can't see ourselves living in this place.
No, I don't either. How can you
The
relax?
swings that has to go, the traffic.
I still had in my mind that we were just going to do a for sale by owner first and then come with an agent if it didn't go well at that point.
That's what we discussed, We're trying to get all the
Yeah, I
options,
know.
laid out on the table, before we make an intelligent decision, But on the other hand, too, we're kind of under the gun here.
We'd like to offer about 15,000 less than the 149.9.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
We
that's,
talked about it, and we'd like our payment to be lower, and we like the house.
yeah,
but-
the house is great, but I guess our payment is going to be a lot flexible if we go about 15,000 lower.
True, your payment would be lower. if you-
So,
We're just thinking of our budget, and we'd like to have some leeway there.
Okay. Well, let me just pause for a second. Clearly the price is an issue and you want to do some negotiating.
I have this very good friend, and her husband is an agent.
Okay.
And I had mentioned to her that we were going to be moving, and so I was thinking that I should give him a shot too.
Okay. Well, those are the options before you. How'd that feel to you? And especially when they wanted to come in 15,000 low, just. What are you thinking? That's what you want to do. And I know in the audience you were watching that, so I had to do it just for you, that cathartic effect. But you paused. Did it feel natural and comfortable to do that? Did you watch that? It just, and they talk it through. So, step number 3 is to isolate the objection. Have you ever overcome an objection only to find out they've got 6 more? And then it becomes a tennis game. They say, well, the bedrooms are too small. And you go, yeah, but all you'd have to do is put in a couple of bunk beds. They say, oh, yeah, well, we don't like the decorating. Oh, you don't like the decorating? Well, shoot. And you feel like you're playing tennis. All right, got any more for me? Come on. In fact, the better technique is to just stop and say, the bedroom's too small. Okay, sounds like that'd be an issue for you. Other than that, how do you guys like the house? Well, we really don't like the decorating. Okay, bedrooms, decorating. If we could resolve those two issues, would you like to live here? Well, not really, because we don't like the freeway. Okay, so the bedrooms and decorating the freeway. Other than that, what do you guys think? At some point, there are so many objections that you just say, let me just ask a big question. Based on what you're telling me, should we just rule this home out for you? So step 3 in isolating is say, so with the size of the bedrooms, rule this home out for you? They might say, oh yeah. And they might say, well, no, okay. And that's more of the, I let go. But that, another thing, if you're a new agent, you'll get this. People say, well, what is the R factor of the third shingle from the left? They'll ask these technical questions. And you go scampering off onto the internet to find out the information, go back to the listing agent, you call them up and say, I have that information you have on the well. And the guy goes, what well? On that colonial I showed you. What colonial? Oh, we don't even like that one. Why am I scampering all over town? Getting this information. So when somebody raises a technical question like, what would it cost to heat? What are they going to put into that vacant lot next door? You know what? I have a lot of information on the zoning in the area, but let me ask you this. What kind of zoning would rule it out for you? And if they say, well, really nothing, it doesn't matter. Okay, well then it's not an issue. Or if they say, commercial would rule it out. Okay, so in other words, if that's not commercially zoned, you would like to buy this home. Okay, now I'll make a note of that. We need to resolve that zoning next door. So in other words, before I answer the question, let's find out what they're looking for.
I don't
Can't
know.
make that go away.
That's pretty bad.
Other than the freeway, how do you like it? Let me ask you this. Other than the price of the property, how do you feel about it? How do you
Oh,
like
we
it?
love the
Great.
house. I like it.
I like the kitchen, I like the area. Oh, it's the house.
Okay. Other than the fee, how do you feel about everything else we've talked about tonight?
Everything
Very
else is
positive,
fine, yeah.
Next step is to question the objection. Step 4, take the objections one at a time, and rather than giving the answers to the objection, you ask them questions. Someone says a bedroom is too small. What would be a good question? Well, their objection was size of the room. So if you say how many bedrooms, you're shifting gears. So stay with their objection. They go, man, these bedrooms are really small. What would you say to me? Why is that? That's a good question. What were you planning on putting in this room? What size were you thinking? How big are your other ones? And here's one of the best questions you can use in all situations. If you folks were to purchase this home anyway, how would you resolve that? That's a question you ought to just memorize. Remember the game, this is an old game, maybe an old game show called Password? Oh, yeah. Where you try to get the people to say the word? And I'm showing a home with small bedrooms, and I know that the answer is bunk beds. And ladies and gentlemen, we're paying real estate password. The password is bunk beds. So how do you feel about this home, ma'am?
Bedroom's too small.
Bedroom's too small. This one? Mm-hmm. May I ask why it's too small?
I've got to put 2 kids in here.
You've got 2 kids. Which 2 kids?
The boys.
The boys. Oh, I see. Okay. You know, if you were to live here, do you see anything you might do to resolve that?
Well, I suppose I could use the bunk beds.
Bunk beds, yes, and he was looking for a password, bunk bed.
Now, what about the size of your company? Does that make a difference as far as largeness, smallness?
Let me ask, does it to you?
Well, I don't want to get lost in the shuffle.
In terms of being a for sale by owner, and I'm imagining you traveling back and forth to Seattle. Will you be joining him in Seattle through any of this? I assume you're going to be out looking at homes?
I'm going to have to go out and look at homes, yeah.
I don't think there's any comparison.
No.
You know,
I mean, ours is better.
How so? How do you feel it's better, Margie?
Well, for one thing, we just put that deck on.
Oh. Mm-hmm. How long ago did you do that?
Two summers ago.
Yeah.
2 summers ago? At that time, were you planning on staying or moving?
Oh, staying.
Yeah, we're going to stay.
Okay. Had you known then that you were going to move now, would you still have put the deck on?
Probably not.
So the only issue we really need to resolve would be the fee, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. Why is that an issue for you? After we have paused, acknowledged, isolated, and questioned, if that doesn't resolve the problem, what do we have to do? At some point, we probably do have to provide an answer. But the answer to an objection should be your last line of defense. Please make it your last line, not your first. And even when you do have to answer, I would put it in a question form. Let's use our somewhat trivial example of the small bedroom. I would lead her, and she finally says, I don't know what I could do, and I don't see anything. I don't know, that's too many boys in the room. Say, ma'am, let me just try this on you. Do you suppose, considering the ages of your sons, that they might find it all right to have bunk beds here? Because if it's the right answer, then she can go, you know what, that might be a good idea, let's ask the boys. And if it's the wrong idea, they go, no, I don't think it would work. So even phrasing it as a question is a gentler way of doing it. Now, I'm going to use all these techniques from now on through our presentations. Let me make another point. Has anyone in this room actually purchased a home for themselves recently? And I'd like each of you to go back to that moment in time where you were just about ready to buy the home. Do you remember that moment? You've just seen the home, you've taken a look around it, you're sitting down ready to buy it. At that moment, was there anything that you did not like about it?
I didn't want to do gravel.
Gravel? What was it, gravel driveway? Okay.
And road.
Gravel driveway and road. What else?
Other things that I
Didn't like.
Being out in the country a little.
Okay, it was too far out in the country.
Septic system.
Septic system.
Well.
Well versus city water. Keep going. Keep going.
Everything else was perfect.
Okay, now imagine if I was your agent, I'd show you through the home and say, well, how do you like it? And you go, well, gosh, it's a gravel driveway, gravel road. I hate gravel. So that would be a concern for you. Isolate. Other than the gravel, how do you like it? Well, boy, I don't like being this far out in the country. Well, other than the gravel road in the country, how do you like it? Well, I don't like a septic system. Well, other than the gravel road in the country and the septic system, then how do you feel about the house? Well, we don't like being on a well. Well, other than the gravel septic system and the road of the septic well, how do you feel? How many of you would have just gone, well, okay, and gone to another home? And one of the most important points to make is that she bought it. Of course, it leads me to the next question. Why?
I have a significant other called a husband.
Okay, keep going. You have a husband, and we learned in the earlier tapes, when you tell me what, I will ask why. Why? Why does that affect your purchase?
Because he loved all that.
Okay, and why did you want to go along with this? Because he loved it?
Because I wanted to live with him.
Okay.
And I truly like the house.
Okay, you truly like the house. What did you like about it?
The house?
Yeah.
Oh, it was all in one floor with a walkout basement,
Okay.
laundry room upstairs.
Convenience, like the property, the physical structure. And you gave on a few of these things because it's a joy to see your partner happy, so you gave on this because you love your husband. Why did your husband love it?
Because we have 2 hunting dogs.
2 hunting dogs. Oh, yeah, I got a black Labrador. And the joy of letting them run out in the country. And here, please follow this. People raise objections to the minor things, but they buy from their heart the emotion, the major things. Now, I promise you, it had everything perfect, but didn't satisfy the dominant motivations, they wouldn't have bought it. So from this point forward, when a buyer or seller raises objections, you're going, yeah, oh, sure, yeah, I hear you, but sell to the heart. So when your husband would raise an objection to some of these, I'd just take the dog and go, come here, boy, how do you like it? Right? Next step, let's talk about some very specific objections and responses. Buyer objections, price is too high. How would you respond to that? Same 6 steps. Pause, price is too high. How much high do you think? Do it to a net price. Anytime somebody says a price is too high, instead of talking about the whole price, you talk about the difference. They might say it's, $4,000 too high. Well, then talk about the $4,000, do a counterbalancing benefit, so reduce the price objection to a net difference. If you'd like, go one step further and reduce it to a payment, and then contrast it against all the better things that they're getting in this property. Somebody says a room is too small. You're not going to make it bigger. Ask some questions. Ask how they would resolve it. Same thing. I appreciate the fact that the dining room is incredibly small. Where would you folks spend most of your time? Oh, in the kitchen entertaining area? Do you think that would work for you? Yeah, I guess it would. Boom, gone. If not, they're not going to buy the home. They don't like the location. Typically, if they're in a bad location, country, usually you get better prices. What about specific listing objections? Clearly, a big one is we want to talk to other agents. Right? You get that a lot. In your pre-listing interview, you might even ask them that. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, will you be talking to other real estate agents? Oh, yes, we will. There's a belief in the industry, should I go first or last? I'll tell you what, no matter what I teach, it could cost you. Sometimes if you go first, they want to talk to the 2 more and you lose your opportunity. If I tell you to go last, one of the first 2 is a good closer and you get thrown out. So my best answer is I like to be first in, last out. Right? So on a 2-call approach, I want to be the first one in to establish that common ground. And then, let's say they're talking to 3 real estate agents, and wherever you are, whether you're the first or the second, but you're not last, and they say, we'd like to list with you, but we want to talk to other agents, my response would be pause, acknowledge, isolate, question, what are you looking for? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let me ask you this. Have I done a good enough job tonight where right now you're leaning towards hiring me? Is that right? Would you consider this? Do you feel that the marketing plan I presented is complete enough that maybe you'd give me the first chance at your property? And if so, the first thing you can assign me to do is to talk to these other agents, let them know you've made a decision. I'll make those calls for you. And furthermore, I'll make sure that those agents get first chance to show your property. How many of you have used this technique and had it work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So another number of you have. But if they absolutely say, nope, we're not going to list until we talk to another agent, first of all, withhold enough for your second visit, right? You don't do the CMA. Don't be doing that. And the second thing you do is say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I appreciate that at this point, you're not comfortable enough saying yes to list with me tonight, but have I done a good enough job, ma'am, where you would say yes to letting me come back one more time before you make your final listing decision? And if they say no, you're done. You've clearly, they don't want to hire you. And if they say yes to that, what do you know about their behavior? They'll let you do it, evidenced by the fact that they're holding these 2 appointments. So that is one of the ways to deal with that. But if somebody says they have a friend in the business, I'd pause and say, let me just suggest something for you. I don't know if it works. Have you ever done business with friends before? Do you ever feel that discomfort? You kind of don't want to talk to them? Yeah. How does that work for you guys? So you plant the seed, you ask the question, they may resolve it. But bottom line, if you do lose to a friend, consider you've lost to one of the best sources in the business. What if you are the friend and they say, we don't want to list with you because you're a friend? Then you say, you know what, if you can't trust your friends, who can you trust? So you need to be able to present that both ways. So let's take a look at the next clip on how I respond to some specific objections. And please pay attention to the fact that I tried to delay the answer. Actually, I did that in the first clip. I'll delay it a little bit more, but at some point, these are examples of it's time to present the answer. But even then, I'll do it in a question form. Well, when you take a look at how homes sell today, clearly agents sell well over 80% of the properties. Do for sale by owners sell their own property? Yes, it does happen. In order for them to do it, a lot of people say, well, we want to do it to save the commission, and what happens is they don't save it, they earn it by doing what it is that we do. And as I look at this list of what would have to happen, regardless, by the way, who sells the property, and contrast it to your next 2 months, I guess I would ask you how you feel about that.
I guess the more I think about it, especially when you're looking at this financially qualified buyers, I mean, anybody could come roaming down the street, see the for sale by owner sign, and come knocking on our door in the middle of dinner or whatever.
On the other hand, yeah, I'm worried about margins too. If the margins are going to be so narrow that the commission is, it's a pretty important factor here too.
Yeah.
In terms of, you mentioned saving the commission. Have you, it's been a while since you bought, but if you were to buy a home from someone who is selling by themselves, what would you expect from them in terms of negotiating in price? If they chose not to go through a broker, what would you be expecting from them?
You know, it's funny. I suppose if the shoe were on the other foot, I'd be hesitant to necessarily buy directly from an owner.
So you see how many of these can be overcome by just checking it out, questioning. Sellers say, well, you know, if we don't sell, we're just going to rent our home. So you'd rent the home? Have you ever done that before? How would you find someone to rent? Who would be doing the maintenance? Do it all through questions, and finally they go, oh yeah, maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. Now we're going to get into the big one, commission objections. This part of the tape you may want to play a couple of times in your career. Commission objections clearly are the most difficult of all to deal with. Commission objections I have divided into 2 categories, what I call absolute and comparative or relative. An absolute commission objection is they turn to you and they just want you to cut your fee, period. Will you do it for less? Are you flexible? Are you negotiable? Those kinds of questions. On a comparative objection, they're comparing you to another company, a lower priced service available. Commissions clearly are negotiable and should be and are not fixed, and talk to your trainers and managers about your local rules in terms of antitrust on commissions. We cannot talk actual commission rates in this seminar, and nor will I. I will use X and X minus 1. Commissions are negotiable, but I remember visiting with a woman in a seminar, brand new agent, said, well, I thought commissions were supposed to be negotiable. Don't I have to come down? And sometimes people hear the word negotiable and it means you have to wimp out. Negotiable means that it's you and the seller that agrees upon it and it's not fixed with anybody else. You can charge whatever you want as a fee. You cannot, however, conspire to charge a fee. So, absolute commission objections, they say, we want you to come down. Comparative are, well, I'm talking to another company, they'll charge less. Philosophically, you have a choice of losing units or losing revenue. If you maintain your fee, will you lose some listings? And most of the salespeople I talk to, I'm just going to use a general number I've heard in the last few years. They say, you know what, if I never cut my fee, in other words, when I hold firm to my fee, which is what I think you should do. This whole seminar is how to just protect your value, protect your commission, and get what you charge. And if you do that, you could lose 10% of your listings. So if you go on 100 listing presentations, you might lose 10 listings. The good news is you got 90 at full fee. Your other option, if you wanted to get all 100 listings, what would you have had to do? cut your fee on how many of them? 10? Ah, a lot of people say, well, I'd only have to cut for the 10. Oh, what kind of integrity is that? So why did these people pay you full fee? Because they were nice and they didn't raise the objection. What did these 10 people do? They were mean, they were hard on you, they closed and they said, if you don't cut your fee, I'm not going to list with you. And they were hard on you, they were aggressive, they were jerks, and they got the discount? If you're going to discount your fee, you would do it for the nice people and charge these people more. And what I'm suggesting to you is charging a reduced fee for the 10 and charging everybody else, it lacks integrity. There's no consistency in your pricing policy. And clearly, and this isn't the reason for being honest, when this person finds out that they paid more than this person, you're in trouble, and your company's in trouble. Oh, what's with this? How come you charge me more than him? Well, because he asked for a cut. You mean I didn't know the magic word? Is that it? Is that how you run your business? So my answer to how do you get all 100, you're going to have to do a wholesale commission. You're going to have to cut for everybody, including the ones who would have paid you more. And depending on your gross commission rate, a 1% cut could be anywhere from 14 to 20%. And I'll just pick a number. You might lose 15% of your dollars versus 10% of your units. What would you rather do? Lose 10% or 15? Here you got 90 listings, but if it was a $90,000 or a $1,000 commission, you had 90 listings and you made $90,000. Over here you only made $85,000 and you had to work on 100 listings and get paid less for it. And by the way, when you cut your fee here on a net basis on the gross margin, paying out to other competitors, you end up really hurting yourself just because you got to cut out of your own split. So for the 10 listings that you don't have to work, there's a great quote that says, we spend our youth creating wealth and spend our wealth repurchasing our youth. So play golf, have fun. I'd rather make more money and not work as hard. Next step in dealing with commission objections is to overwhelm your sellers with competence. I want you to be so good, so powerful, so on time, so well dressed, so good in your questions that you will embarrass the owners out of even asking. Have any of you ever done that? Your listing presentation where you know they were going to try to cut because their father-in-law said, don't you list with that real estate agent, you got to at least ask. Do you realize that a lot of the commission objections are just they have to ask? Their friend said, ask, at least it doesn't hurt to ask. And the problem is, realtors take them seriously. And then they wimp out and they go, boy, am I ever glad you told me to ask. That guy caved right in. But I want you to be so good that when you're done with your presentation, they would be embarrassed to ask. Next way to deal with commission objection is to take a position of strength. Each of you must decide that you are good, decide that you are competent. Take pride in your value as a human being and as a realtor. And when you take pride in your value, then you can set limits and be willing to walk away. The greatest power as a professional service provider is the willingness to walk away if you can't get a listing that's priced right, marketed right, good enough commission, willingness to sell it. You've got to decide that up front. Best way to get a full price commission without a negotiating is just write it in. Have all your listing agreements pre-typed and pre-filled out with your commission. You just give it to them and have them sign it. And if they ask you to cut your fee, you just pause. I do get asked that a number of times, but no. And the reason I say no is because I couldn't come up with any service that I could cut in relation to that fee cut that wouldn't hurt you more than the fee cut. Just say no. In fact, for those of you watching this video, you might even turn off this video, turn to each other, and one ask the other to cut the commission, and the recipient of that say no. Just practice saying no. Now, here's another little technique. Sometimes sellers will turn to you and say, but we only want you to cut your commission one little tiny percent. Wouldn't you just cut one? Would you just trim one little tiny percent? And they just make it sound like it's just 1%. Well, depending on what the denominator is, in other words, your gross commission, I have to be careful because I will not use real numbers in here. But if your gross commission is this, and they say one of those percent, you're not coming down 1%, you're coming down 1 divided by your commission rate, which could be 14 or 18 or 15 or a 20% reduction in your fee. You realize that? I've even had agents say to me, well, I only came down 1%. No, you didn't. You came down 17. What do you mean? Divide 1 by your commission. Oh, yeah, you're putting yourself on sale. So the attorney there said, not just 1%. You're asking me to put myself on sale. I don't do that. But I thought your fee was negotiable. Don't you charge less? Well, you know what? We do have a range of fees. I do charge X minus 2 for relocation companies who list with me 20 homes a month. For builders, to whom I've sold the real estate, and then they relist the homes with me, and they list 10 homes a year, then I charge X minus 1. For a single residential transaction, I charge X%. How many would you be listing? Okay, just the one. Then our fee is X. Now let's take a look at a clip on dealing with a commission objection. So that concludes our marketing plan, and the point of all this is to get your home sold obviously very quickly and for the most money. And if you're comfortable with that, I'd like to go ahead and put it on the market.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
It's fine.
Okay. Listen, you haven't talked about your commission yet.
You need to know the price of our services, and in the exclusive right to sell agreement, this is the agreement that gives me the right to sell your property and to be paid for it, and this is our commission rate for those services.
Go ahead.
Any flexibility on the commission?
How do you mean?
I mean, is that negotiable in any way?
Well, when you use the word negotiable, is it a legally negotiable? Yes, it is. The fees for our services is something that it's not fixed in any way. It's a negotiable in that regards. But in terms of what we have chosen to charge for our services, this is our commission. Yes.
Yeah. Well, David, you know, one of our concerns is that we're worried about a very narrow margin here, and so if we could save a point and a half.
And the other thing is too, you know, in the media has told us about the wonderful value of homes, and here we are with you're getting the commission, and it's the same amount that it probably was a few years ago, and yet you're getting your raise, and we're stuck, huh?
Well, I wouldn't like to use the word stuck. I would like to consider that what you pay for my services is well worth it in terms of the plan that I presented to you. But you bring up a good point. Some people have mentioned that, you know, with the rising prices, aren't you realtors making more money? And relative to the bad market, yes. I mean, there is an inherent cost of living built into our fee, so I would certainly acknowledge that. But the way the markets have been going, basically it brings our fees back to where they were before. Another thing to consider is we've got a lot of people to compensate to do this. We have technology, the marketing, the advertising, all the things that I went through today have a tremendous cost to them. But the real cost, and this is something sellers sometimes don't see, and that's the cost of not having your home sold properly within a reasonable period of time. Another thing to keep in mind is you do not pay my fee if I don't do the job I promised. It's not like you pay me, it's better than a money-back guarantee. And so would I take less than that? My answer is we could not figure out in our company what services that we would cut that wouldn't harm you greater than the amount you'd save on the commission. So our feeling was, do we be full service? Do we be discount? And we decided that when we deal with homes like this, with people like you, this is very much worthy of a full service marketing effort.
Well, you have a point.
So yes, we do have a point. And just the fact that you are willing to stay in there and not cave in, but to just stay, pause, acknowledge, isolate, present some more things. The whole demeanor, did you feel like it was high pressure at any point? No, it's assertive. I'm making the point that the whole demeanor is kind of like, I'm not going to cut my commission, but let me tell you why I'm not. Very nice, you're just not going to do it. So the next, we have to talk about what happens when it's a comparative commission objection, when they've talked to you and someone else is trying to undercut you. And I promise you, every single salesperson in this room and everybody watching this video will at some point, if not at every point in your life, encounter someone who sells something cheaper. Period. And the first line of defense for a lot of salespeople is, well, I want to be able to cut too. I can't tell you how many stories I've read over the years of companies who've told their salespeople, charge whatever you want for a product. And you know what happens? It finally went down to the point they couldn't even give it away. They really couldn't. So the philosophy here is, how do you compare yourself to someone else? Step number one on a comparative objection is to convert the commission objection to a net equity objection. As soon as you ask somebody, why is commission an issue to you, the next answer will be, well, bottom line, we want to save money. Why do you want to save money? Well, because we net more. Oh, so in other words, this isn't really commission, it's net. Okay. So what you need to do, and in the next clip you'll see clearly how I do this, is you say, yes, you want a net. And what you do is you see the gross sale price minus our commission reduction, that it's going to increase the bottom line. And what we do is challenge whether or not that really happens. And then the second thing we do, once we've converted it to a net equity objection, then we can move on to the next point and talk about how value added, that whatever more we charge for a service actually gives them more of the bottom line. So you have to avoid being a commodity. And the next thing you need to do is demonstrate your performance difference. You talk about net gain over the competition. Yes, you might pay that company 1% less, but your bottom line net equity may not improve as a result of it. So let's see how we would handle a comparative commission objection.
Gee, I talked with another company, and their commission rate was 1% less than yours.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what you're charging.
This is what our fee is, yes.
Okay. Well, I guess that's part of it.
It sounds like the commission rate is an issue for you, Mike.
Well, considering the value of the house and our tight margins here, yeah, a percentage point.
Okay. Well, that's a fair concern.
Substantial.
Clearly, you're right. It is a substantial fee.
Could make a difference for us.
Okay. Let me set this aside for just a second and ask this question. Other than the fee, how do you feel about everything else we've talked about tonight?
Everything
Very
else is
positive,
fine, yeah.
Okay. So you would feel comfortable having me and my company represent you? So.
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Okay. So the only issue we really need to resolve would be the fee. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Why is that an issue for you?
It's because looking at the market in Redmond surprised us. It's a little more expensive out there than we'd anticipated,
Okay.
and what the market has been doing in our particular neighborhood here, and we know our margins are going to be very slim. So a percentage is, it comes down to.
It's significant for us in terms of the cost of moving too.
Okay. So the issue isn't so much that you don't feel our company is worth it, it's more of the net equity to you, is that right?
Right.
Okay. Well, I feel a little bit better about that. And that's
It's not you at all.
That's a
You're
reasonable
fine.
assumption. Let's take a look at that. So in other words, the commission rates per se isn't the issue. You need to net as much as you can out of your property.
Obviously,
Well, then you have to ask the question, what creates that net? What does that come from? And the net equity in your home, certainly part of it is, and we're going to go through more detail of proceeds of sale. Part of your net equity, we take the gross sale price minus the expenses and gives you net. And a lot of people tend to look at the commission rate and say, if I save here, it will drop to the bottom line. And, 1% of your sale price, could that drop close to $4,000 to the bottom line? Mathematically, yes. But here's the question. If you were to list with a company that, in fact, charges less commission, will they be able to create that price for you? In fact, by the way, how quickly did they agree to cut their fee?
Oh, it was right away.
Then you've got to ask yourself a question. How quickly might they agree to cut your price when somebody wants to come in low? And let me take it another step. If our fee wasn't different, let's just say that our fees were the same, either mine or the other companies. Let's say there was no difference between them. Who would you hire? If our fees weren't different, who would you list with right now?
I'd be much more comfortable going with you, of course.
With me.
Likewise,
So you would.
right.
So if our fees were the same, you'd hire me. Then the next
Right.
question is, why would you hire me over that company?
I think that you have a better marketing plan. I think
Okay.
that, and again, too, like Walter was saying about the friendship type of thing, we would probably be better off to stay with a third party.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me interrupt you for just a second. So you're saying if our fees were equal, you would hire me over them because you see some benefit that our company for. And then my question back to you is, if there is a difference in value, would there be a justifiable difference in cost?
You make a point.
If, let's say let's play this out a little bit further. What if our fee was a 0.5% higher than theirs? Who would you list with? We know if they're equal, I would get the listing. If I was a 0.5% higher, who would you hire?
I'd still tilt toward you.
Okay.
Listen,
Now,
I
let's
like your
play it out.
style,
Yeah,
David.
okay, let me play this out with you.
I want you on my side.
Okay. What if I was X 0.6%? Who would you hire? At what point does it become a tough decision? It's like a point spread in a football game. At what point do you bet on the other team? So at X and a half, I still win. X 0.6, where does it get? Where does it get tricky for you? And if you want, we'll play that out.
At a full point. We could go on with.
You could go on.
that
Let's
for
say it
long
was a
time,
0.5%. You take a 0.5% of an approximate sale price here. You're looking at $2,000, and then I go back to the same question: how lucky do you feel? Which leads me to another thing. I don't want to just have you agree with me because I'm strong. Let's go back to what I showed you before. We're looking at a potential savings, mathematically, of maybe a couple of $1,000s in commission. And then you take a look at our list to sale price, our expired percentage, and our average market time. And I've given you my numbers for what we do here. And I would put you back to comparing me against that other company, if they don't sell it, if their listed sale price is 1% lower than mine, there goes that. If it takes them another month to sell, that wipes out the 1%. And by the way, if they don't sell at all, you really save nothing at all.
Yeah, that's true. And probably make up the difference in airline tickets too.
Have you ever bought a? You ever been out where you maybe bring to mind a time where you were buying a product or service, you had an option between a more and a less expensive? Have you ever bought a less expensive product? I mean, we've all been. If you think of one you bought,
I've gotten angry at myself about each time I did it too. That's
and have
absolutely
been more than displeased with a few things. So
one of my favorite, I don't know if you've ever seen a comedian named Stephen Wright. He said, the other day I bought some batteries, but they weren't included, so I had to buy them again. And I sometimes think of that. When you buy a product that doesn't work, you've got to buy it again. And by that time, you've lost time. And let's take you one step further on this. I hope this isn't overkill, but you've brought up a very legitimate issue, and I want to answer it as firmly as I can. When you take a look at the activity on a new listing over time, if you take this peak activity and you have it listed with the wrong realtor during the right time, you're in a tough situation. Another thing is, as I mentioned, we've got a money-back guarantee. It's even better. You don't even pay me unless I do what I've just said. So it's nice to know. And in fact, real estate agencies have the best guarantee in the world. If we don't do our job, you don't pay us at all, which is, I think that's pretty nice. So considering all of that, do you feel that we're worth it? And do you feel you'd like to let me be the first to market your home?
What do you think?
okay.
Boss said okay.
That was a lot of work. Do you all feel comfortable enough with yourselves to stay in it that long, that assertively? Watching your faces now, even those of you watching on video, I can see you're nodding your heads going, yeah, I can do that. And you just decide to stay in and make the contrast from net to commission and then contrast your services to them. There is one other category of commission objections, and those I call the post-listing commission-dectomy. A lot of people come up to me and say, David, I don't have a problem with the commissions up front. I have problems at the end. We've already had it on the market for a month and a half, and then they try to cut commission. And the first time is at an offer presentation. And the offer comes in, and the seller turns to you and say, you know what? We're only a few $1,000s apart. Wouldn't you cut your commission to make the sale? My answer to them is, this morning we were $149,900 apart. And the fact that I have closed the gap down to this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have done my job, so now is not the time that I would cut my fee. And if they turn to you and say, you mean you lose a sale over $2,000? No, sir. You would be losing a sale over $2,000. If there's ever a time to be firm on your fee, it's all the time, but it's especially this time. You just did your job. So, no, you're not going to cut your fee. The second time a post-listing commission-dectomy happens when you sell the property, in their mind, too quickly. You sold it in 3 or 4 days, and they go, hey, that was really quick. And of course, they have two beliefs. One is they underpriced it. Two is they overpaid you. So you need to address those up front. And when you price it right, you say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, this could sell very quickly, just so you know. By the way, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if I had a buyer that wanted to buy tonight, but that felt too fast for you, should I wait a couple weeks to show your home to him? And you say that with a smile, and they kid around. But if they say to you, hey, you sold this really fast, I don't know, why should we pay you your full fee? Let me close this tape with a story that makes the point. Story about an owner of a factory whose boiler failed. And with the steam failing, the building became cold, the machines ran out, and the owner was in a rage going, my gosh, what's happening? I'm losing my money. He calls up the boiler repairman. He says, you must come out. You've got to come out and fix my boiler. I don't know what's going on with it, but I'm out of business till we fix this thing. The guy says, all right, I'll come. So the boiler repairman comes out and says, all right, let me take a look at your boiler. And the boiler repairman goes around and he puts his hands on all the pipes in the boiler and he checks everything in the back room and he feels different points. And he feels another one. He feels here and he goes, do you have a hammer? And the guy says, yeah, give it to me. He takes a hammer and he carefully goes across to a certain pipe and he comes up and he goes, and he backs away. And the clog is relieved and the valve opens and it starts up again and the owner says, thank you, you saved my life. He goes, no problem, I'll send you the bill. So the bill comes the next day for $1,000. The owner's going, $1,000? The guy comes out, he taps with a hammer. Hey, I just got your bill, $1,000. I don't know what the heck you're charging $1,000 for, but I want an itemized bill. And the guy says, I'd be glad to send you an itemized bill. Bill comes back to the factory and it says, for tapping with a hammer, 50 cents. for knowing where to tap. $999.50. You get paid for knowing where to tap. That concludes Commissions and Managing Sales Resistance.